So hey guys, this is your favorite fictional vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto had Kyuubi's power and become a dark god. But before we start, remember to subscribe and like this video. Now let's start. It's terrifying. There are many words an 80,000-year-old demon would use to describe what it is like to be sealed in a newborn human. But terrifying should not be one of them. Something happened when I was sealed. I have never been sealed before, but I know what it should be like. Naruto, I pray that someday I will be able to save you. Because if I can't, boom. The explosion of wood and cement rocked the Konoha Plaza. Naruto's Anbu guard had only left to use the bathroom when a villager with a vendetta tried to enact his justice against Naruto. The result was terrifying. The body of the villager was flung out through a cement wall and into the middle of the street. Already the villager was dying from the broken bones and internal bleeding, and there would be no way to save him. Wood splinters littered the area as a wooden table had also been flung out with the villager. From out of the hole in the side of the building stepped a 4-year-old Naruto, but this was not the Naruto everyone knew. His appearance was unchanged except for his eyes, which were now completely black. No irises, no whites, no pupils. Just darkness. Surrounding Naruto was a thick black chakra that made the air feel heavy. Its aura and oppressive weight were even more sinister than that of the Kyuubi who attacked 4 years earlier. In the middle of Naruto's chest was a spot of dried blood and a tear in his shirt where he was clearly stabbed with a knife, though already the wound seemed to have healed without leaving a scar. Shinobi rushed onto the scene with orders to clear away civilians and wait for the Hokage. They need not have waited long. He came almost instantly. Inside Naruto's mind he was drawn to the pleading screams of a female voice. Come, 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 the voice yelled. Naruto found himself in front of a giant cage containing a red-haired woman who looked to be in her mid-20s. She had red eyes that glowed with power, though otherwise she looked normal, astoundingly beautiful, but normal. Right away Naruto asked, "Who are you? And where are we?" "There isn't time to explain," the woman said. Naruto simply replied, "Oh," but Kyuubi felt something wrench at her heart from the sorrow in his voice. "Naruto, just being inside you I can tell that I have changed. If I could take it back, I would never have attacked Konoha. I'm going to give you power and this may hurt a little, okay?" Naruto simply nodded in reply. "Promise me you'll visit," Kyuubi added. How was he supposed to visit if he didn't know where he was? "But I don't. Ask your Hokage." "Hokage." Kyuubi bit back her frustration and her anger. She wasn't used to dealing with kids, and replied calmly, "Your Ji-san, grandfather." Naruto's demeanor suddenly lightened as he thought of the old Hokage. Okay. Inside his mindscape, red chakra suddenly engulfed Naruto. In the outside world, there was borderline pandemonium. There was nothing the shinobi could do unless they knew that Naruto was alive and that it hadn't taken over. All they did know was that it was ranting about its power. "Fool," Naruto said, staring impassively at the battered body of the would-be assassin. "You cannot get rid of me." The almost dead villager through ragged and dying breaths spat out, "KQ, bye. HN, the Kyuubi is weak. Her chakra is so thin, so weak." Naruto replied, holding up his right hand. Black chakra engulfed it. Quote, "My chakra is dark chakra, the chakra of the gods. My chakra is so CK it actually becomes weaker through elemental recomposition." Naruto chuckled. Through trembles a Chunin managed to throw out the question, "Who are you?" Black eyes turned on the Chunin. "I don't have a name." Naruto then turned his attention towards the Hokage. "HN, seems like my time is up. Know this. You can kill Naruto, you can kill Kyuubi, but you cannot kill me. Take good care of Naruto. For someday his power along with the Kyuubi's will be mine." Suddenly red chakra shot out of Naruto and the black disappeared from his eyes, revealing red irises and slit pupils. Then the red chakra died down and Naruto's eyes turned blue before he promptly collapsed. XXX 8 years later XXX. The class groaned as Iruka called out Team 7. In short, the team was stacked, not to mention that most of the girls desired to be on Sasuke-kun's team. Uchiha Sasuke was the rookie of the year. His scores on written tests were almost always among the top 3, his scores in taijutsu were usually among the top 2. His scores in ninjutsu and weapons throwing were consistently the highest in the class. He was among the top in ability to see through genjutsus, and finally, he was the last loyal bloodline genius of his clan. Though he didn't graduate early, he was considered to be a prodigy. Uzumaki Naruto was one of the stronger students in the class. He was an enigma to most posses. Seeing a goofy side that strived for attention and a serious side that was developing into a formidable shinobi. He lived in the Hokage's tower despite being of no relation to the Sandaemon everywhere. Naruto went he was shadowed by an Anbu guard and none of the other children knew why. His chakra control held him back, but at the same time, his stamina was by far the highest in the class. It was a mystery to the other students how good and at the same time how bad someone could be at ninjutsu and taijutsu. Naruto could perform several Junin-level techniques including kinjutsu, forbidden techniques. Yet it was a great difficulty for him to perform even an academy-level Bunshin clone. Naruto would spend many hours training his chakra control, but he struggled to improve, of course, other students didn't realize that he had 3 different chakras mixing together somewhat unevenly. His physical ability allowed him to sometimes match Sasuke in taijutsu spars, but he fought without any particular style using strength and speed to make up for uncontrolled movements. His weapons throwing and genjutsu detection were both lousy as he had no form for throwing shuriken and he really on Kyuubi to detect and dispel genjutsu, which she refused to do during academy training. On written tests he scored above average, but not amazingly high, often doing well in problem solving and poorly in recalling and reciting information. Naruto's behavior was strange to say the least. He seemed interested in several different girls, but he only ever asked out one of them. Haruno Sakura. None of the other students knew why when insofar as they could tell he had an even bigger crush on the most popular girl in class, the beauty Ino. The truth was that of all the girls in the class, the only girl whose mother was accepting of the idea of their daughter having a relationship with Naruto was Sakura's mother, a piece of information that Naruto had deduced on his own through observation. At times Naruto would pull pranks on people and it was a well-known fact that the only teacher who would teach Naruto was Iruka, hence Iruka was the teacher for the same class year after year instead of passing his students off at the end of the year. It was not as if other teachers would scold Naruto, they would just avoid him as much as possible. Goofy Naruto was the class Dobi, dead last, failure. Shinobi Naruto was a genius who even the arrogant Uchiha Sasuke thought of as an equal and potential rival. Sasuke had actually hoped to end up on the same team as Naruto, the only person who wasn't guaranteed to hold me back. The final member of the team was none other than Haruno Sakura. She was one of Sasuke's fangirls, but while she acted like an idiot wherever Sasuke was concerned, she typically had the highest written test scores in the class. Even though she knew nothing other than academy techniques, her ninjutsu scored highly because of her excellent chakra control. Her and spelling abilities were also among the top in the class. Her weaknesses were physical. Her strength, speed and stamina were all below average among the newly graduated kunoichi, and thus near the bottom of the class. Her only redeeming quality as far as taijutsu and weapons throwing were concerned was that her form was textbook perfect. Yet, she was almost dead last in spars because she had no ability for reading people's movements. As the last of the teams were called out, the class rearranged itself into the teams with most of the girls trying to drag their teams as close to Sasuke as possible. He merely groaned before looking out the window. Sakura kept trying to get his attention while Naruto went into a meditative trance. The Junin instructors were called in from outside in the hallway. The Junin of the Team 1 called out for his students. The Junin of Team 2 followed his example. The Junin of Team 3 stepped forward and then suddenly the attention of the class focus on the doorway where a puff of smoke appeared, revealing a silver gray-haired Junin with his Hitai-8 covering his left eye. In his right hand was an orange book, Ika Ika Paradise. His cool entrance was followed by a simple, yo. All of the other Junin stood there shocked. Asuma's cigar dropped out of his mouth and fell to the floor. Kakashi, you're on time. Kakashi countered with, is something wrong? Every Junin in the room face faltered. The 3 newly appointed genin were sitting on the roof of the academy. In front of them their teacher sat lazily on the edge of the roof. Why don't you guys tell me something about yourselves? Naruto, the Hokage wants to see you, so why don't you go first? Right, Naruto said, the name's Uzumaki Naruto and I like ramen, training and a certain vixen. Inside Naruto, our favorite fox had the graciousness to blush. I dislike people who are intolerant of others and I hate the color black because it reminds me of something. Gee, Naruto's face suddenly gained a far away yet discernibly cold look. My dreams. I have two dreams. To make my parents proud and my other dream is a secret. Alright, Kakashi replied in a lazy tone. Not surprised by anything Naruto said. The other genin were just wondering what was wrong with Black. You know me already and I'm sure you know your classmates by now, so why don't you get going? The details for where we meet are on this printout, Kakashi said, holding out a slip of paper. Naruto grabbed the paper and rushed off. Okay, Kakashi said, turning back to the two remaining genin. Next. My name's Uchiha Sasuke. There are few things I like and many things I don't like. I don't want to use the word dream, but I have an ambition. To resurrect my clan, and to kill a certain man. Sakura blushed, thinking, he's so cool. Kakashi had merely figured as much. And now the girl. Sakura quickly schooled herself as if she had been called upon in class. I'm Haruno Sakura and the thing I like is, well, the person I like is. She blushed and looked over at Sasuke before continuing, should I say my dream for the future? Again she blushed before suddenly looking peeved. The thing I dislike is Ino Pig. And my hobby is, once again she blushed. Kakashi had the decency to look mildly embarrassed while thinking. Girls of this age are always more interested in love than ninjutsu. That's enough of that. Tomorrow we start formal duties, but before that the Hokage wants to meet with you two as well. The details for tomorrow and such are on these printouts. Later, with a poof of smoke, Kakashi disappeared. Sasuke and Sakura arrived at the Hokage's office right as Naruto was leaving. Naruto flashed a sad smile at them but didn't say anything, instead walking down the hall towards the private living area in the Hokage Tower. Sakura made to question him, but found herself stopped when Sasuke put his hand on her arm and shook his head. Ah, right on time. Come on in. The Hokage spoke in a grandfatherly way. Hokage-sama, Sakura asked, why did you want to speak with us and why did you meet Naruto separately? The Hokage puffed on his smoking pipe before answer. There are a bunch of things I need to tell you, secrets that relate to everything. First you must swear to me that you will never talk about what we discuss in this room to anyone. His is an S-class law that must never get in the wrong hands. Sakura looked nervous, but followed Sasuke's example as he said, I swear. Good, the Hokage said. This secret starts 12 years ago when the Kyuubi attacked Konoha. You know that the Yondaime Hokage defeated the Kyuubi, but nobody has ever told you how. The answer is that he sealed it in his own son. Both Sakura and Sasuke looked at the Hokage in shock. They were not even aware that the Yondaime had a son. The Hokage took another puff on his pipe before continuing. But something went wrong with the sealing that day. The technique the Yondaime used was a kinjutsu that summons Shinigami, the death god, and sealed the Kyuubi in exchange for the Yondaime's soul. However, somehow a piece of the child's soul broke off and fused with a piece of Kyuubi's soul. This entity then fused with some of the Shinigami's chakra. Essentially, this third being inside the child's body is the makings of a god. Both Sasuke and Sakura felt a sense of foreboding. That child, the son of Kazama Arashi and Myobu, is none other than your teammate Uzumaki Naruto. Both Sakura and Sasuke were aghast. It seemed absurd to think that Naruto would have something like that in him. Yet it answered many questions. However, there's more. We knew almost immediately that something went wrong with the sealing. The council wanted to kill Naruto. But that could have potentially made things worse. The best we could hope for was that the entity would lay trapped and dormant inside Naruto. However, this was proven to not be the case when a Villag tried to assassinate Naruto in the hopes of killing the Kyuubi as well. If Naruto dies, the Kyuubi will die as well, but this dark entity will be released, which would be far worse. Worse than the Kyuubi. Why would they allow Naruto to become a shinobi and live such a dangerous life if it was so bad? Questions such as these raced through the minds of the newly appointed genin. However, the longer Naruto lives, the stronger it becomes. Our only hopes are to either have Naruto reabsorb the entity or to find a way to erase it from existence. In either case, Naruto himself must become stronger to defeat the entity. It was for this reason that my student, Naruto's uncle Orochimaru, became obsessed with studying higher powers in order to figure out how to stop it and save Naruto. Orochimaru began performing human experimentation even on children and himself. Both genin looked mortified. The Hokage once again puffed on his pipe before continuing. It was for that reason that Orochimaru became a missing nin. Regardless of the reason, experimenting on humans without their consent is not justified, and I tried to stop him. My other student, Jiraiya, discovered an organization that was ultimately responsible for the Kyuubi attack, an organization that is seeking to acquire power in any way it can. They are called Akatsuki, and this is where this story relates to you, Sasuke. Why? Our brother Uchiha Itachi is a part of Akatsuki. Sasuke's head shot up at the mention of his brother's name and he clenched his fists. It is believed that the reason your brother massacred your clan, because your father was friends and rivals with Kazama Arashi and took it upon himself to organize Naruto's security detail. It was even suggested at one point that Naruto should live at the Uchiha estate. But it was agreed that the safest place for him to live was right here in this tower. Itachi was placed in the Anbu by your father with the original intention of guarding Naruto and his secrets more closely after several major security leaks were discovered. Itachi, however, became obsessed with power and sought to attain it for himself. It is Ed Akatsuki before he even left Konoha. We that Shisui discovered this and confronted Itachi and was murdered, and that your father discovered what Shisui had uncovered. We believe this in part because the same night of the massacre, Itachi attempted to abduct Naruto. Sasuke clenched his fists harder. So that's why, Itachi, you betrayed the clan for power. You killed mom and dad because you want to become a god. The way you relate to this story, Sakura. Sakura's head perked up, but she was terrified of what she might hear, is that Naruto grew up with a rotating group of carefully screened caretakers. The head caretaker was none other than your mother. Inwardly, Sakura sighed in relief. Outwardly, she could bring herself to do nothing other than nod. Arashi had 3 students, Uchiha Obito, Hatake Kakashi, and Amai Rin. Sensei Kakashi was chosen for 3 reasons. He is one of the strongest Junin in the village, he is one of the most familiar with this situation and knows all your family's histories well, and his best friend and teammate Obito died during the Great Shinobi War. Kakashi was given one of Obito's Sharingan eyes. Sharingan? Sakura questioned, what's that? It was Sasuke who answered. It is the Uchiha bloodline. It has 4 levels, each more powerful than the last. It allows you to predict and copy almost all techniques, see through genjutsus and even perform eye-based genjutsus without hand seals. Amazing, was all Sakura could bring herself to say. Had it been at any other moment she would have had hearts in her eyes. The Hokage coughed before speaking again. After it was discovered that the entity wants to someday take over Naruto, Amai Rin also left the village and became a missing nin. She wrote a letter stating that she planned to return someday with a way to cure Naruto. Those 3, Orochimaru, Itachi and Rin, are considered the highest level missing nin in Konoha's history, with the only possible exception of Uchiha Madara. Orochimaru was a once-in-a-generation prodigy. Itachi was considered the greatest bloodline genius ever born in Konoha, and Rin is a medical genius rivaling Tsunade, as well as a seal master whose only better in Konoha history was the Yondaime himself. In your journeys, you may encounter any of those 3, and while Orochimaru and Rin may have good intentions at heart for Naruto, it is unclear how they will act. Team 7 will not be sent on any missions outside of Konoha until I think you are ready to handle yourselves against Chunin at least. But there's one more thing. When Naruto's life is in danger, the entity will take over Naruto's body to defend him. You will know when this is happening if Naruto's eyes turn black and the chakra he uses becomes thick and black as well. Thankfully, the Kyuubi helps Naruto to control himself and prevent himself from being possessed. We are unsure, but we believe that the part of Kyuubi's soul that was lost to the fusion was the most evil part, so you can trust the Kyuubi to try to help. But you should stay on your guard. In a dark cave, 9 figures gathered. We have finally found a way to harness the power of the Dark God by using the power of the 9. XXX Flashback XXX. Uchiha Sasuke bolted towards the kitchen as his mother called out that dinner was ready. Uchiha Makoto may have been a Junin of the village, but at home she acted more like a civilian housewife. And if housewives were measured by their ability to cook, Makoto would be one of the top-ranked housewives in the world. It was odd, in a way, growing up with a mother was sweet, never losing her temper. A mother who enjoyed cooking and cleaning and was always supportive of her children, who was feared in the shinobi world as a master assassin. A chef is supposed to be a support figure on the battlefield. A field hand who tends to the basic needs of the unit. Makoto had been a captain of the Anbu, a leader of one of the 4 Anbu divisions, and yet she was perhaps best known by her division for baking cookies. Needless to say, Sasuke's stomach always growled when his mother's food came to mind. So quickly did Sasuke rush to the table that he barely noticed the blonde boy his same age standing next to his father. Sasuke, Fugaku said to his son, "I'd like you to meet Uzumaki Naruto. His father was a friend of mine and one of the strongest shinobi I knew." As Fugaku finished introducing Naruto, Itachi entered the room. Sasuke called out, "Ni-san." Itachi didn't bother to return Sasuke's greeting, instead he eyed Naruto. For a moment, Sasuke thought he saw a strange gleam enter his brother's eyes. But he dismissed it as a trick of the light. For an hour the 5 of them ate dinner together. It was an unusual family dinner. Naruto seemed to have an effect on Sasuke's parents, particularly his father, which caused them to open up. Instead of the usual quiet, dinner was filled with conversations about shinobi training and certain Junin who seemed particularly weird, including a green-clad man Naruto had met who would shout things about the fires of youth. Sasuke silently hoped to never meet said man. When dinner ended, all but Itachi moved into the master bedroom of the Uchiha compound where they played Monopoly. Itachi had an important mission that would influence the clan's position in Konoha. Despite that, Fugaku seemed surprisingly unconcerned, simply saying to Chi he would expect Itachi to perform well. It was one of the few times that Sasuke ever saw his father smile or laugh, let alone play anything. Sasuke almost felt ashamed that he was jealous of Naruto's ability to make his father do that, but all jealousy was lost at the end of the night when Fugaku turned to his son and said, "Naruto reminds me of his father just like how I see myself in you." It would be the most complimentary thing Fugaku ever said to Sasuke. XXX End Flashback XXX. Sasuke stared down at the floorboards that he sat on when they played Monopoly together with an almost psychotic interest. Clenching and unclenching his fists. The master bedroom was left relatively untouched since the massacre. The Monopoly set still rested on a shelf of his parents' bookcase, drawing Sasuke's attention to it. Slowly, Sasuke walked over to it, the floorboards groaning under weight felt for the first time in years. He reached out with trembling hands that dusted it off, opening it up for the first time in 6 years. He was surprised when he found a letter addressed to him. "Sasuke, there is a commotion outside the house. Your father is rallying the clan, but a lot of people are dying. Just in case something bad happens, I want you to know that your father and I are proud of you. Continue to make us proud and don't follow in your brother's footsteps. I must go help now. Love, Mom." Sasuke's fist holding the letter clenched, crumpling the paper. His parents knew that Itachi was attacking, so why couldn't they stop him? How come the Hokage didn't help? For years all Sasuke cared about was revenge. But now that he knew Itachi's motives, other questions, thoughts and feelings were racing through his mind. Itachi was strong, but stronger than the whole clan. How did Itachi do it? How did he kill the whole clan and almost manage to abduct someone living in the Hokage's tower all in the same night? Revenge was more important than ever, yet other issues surrounding it had also grown in importance as well. Above all else, Itachi could not get his hands on Naruto. Sasuke would see to that. As dinner came out at the Haruno household, Sakura found she was unable to eat. She simply sat there playing with her food. If her mother was Naruto's head caretaker, then why didn't she know anything about it? Sakura's father couldn't take it anymore seeing his daughter just play with dinner as it cooled. The last time it happened, She and Ino had set aside their friendship. "Sweetie, what's the matter? Mom, how come you never told me about Naruto?" That did it. Dinner at the Haruno household officially stopped. Sakura's mother asked, "What do you want to know about Naruto?" Though Naruto no actor, both parents were praying that this was not another security leak. The last time there was a leak, Sakura's mother found herself observing Ibiki questioning Naruto's nannies one after the other while Sakura's father had to assign assassination missions to kill runners heading to Earth Country to deliver the information that had been discovered. It was one of the tensest weeks in the lives of the Harunos. Sakura's dad was one of the Hokage's personal assistants, someone W. Ho had been a special Junin in the Anbu, but could no longer perform ninja duties because of injuries received during the Kyuubi attack. He was the chief missions distributor for Sandaime, and if he chose the wrong team for a mission, it could potentially be his head. Hokage-sama told me about his condition. Both parents visibly looked relieved. "Mom, why didn't you tell me that you were his caretaker?" Sakura's mother sighed. "It had to be kept a secret. Most of the ladies who were assigned to help were civilians, and only a few people even knew who they were. If an enemy found out, they could easily impersonate one of the women and do something bad." Sakura's father added, "That thing inside of him is dangerous. We can't let it get out. To this day I blame it. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but most of us who know believe that it is the incarnation of Kyuubi's evil. Just stay out of trouble and your team should be okay." That night, Sakura couldn't help but dream that it escaped and killed her for all the times she hit Naruto when he asked her out. She knew it was silly, but she silently promised herself that she wouldn't hit Naruto anymore. The sun's first light revealed Kakashi standing over the fallen hero's memorial stone just outside his favorite training grounds. Usually Kakashi would wake up at the crack of dawn and stay at the memorial for hours on end, arriving late to all his morning appointments, choosing instead to spend the time telling Obito, Arashi and Myobu, a woman who was almost a mother to him, of the events of the past day. It was an eccentric habit, but it was perhaps all that kept him sane. Pain was etched across what was visible of his face. Being Naruto's sensei was sure to open up old wounds. XXX Flashback XXX. Kakashi stood over the memorial stone, staring down at Obito's name. "It was my fault, damn it. Why did you have to die for me when I failed as the team leader? Kakashi-kun, come on out of the rain, you'll catch a cold." A voice said from behind him. "I don't care." His whole life he had acted so adult, so serious. At 7 he had already made his first kill and he always followed orders to the letter. Now suddenly he just seemed so childish, as if making up for all the years he had lost. "Well, I do." Kakashi turned to look at the woman. Myobu, Sensei's wife. She was so different from her older brother. Sure, like her brother she was obsessed with knowledge, though in her case it was seals, but in almost every other way she was different. Orochimaru always had a treacherous aura about him, a sadist lying in wait for the opportune moment to strike. He was cold in a sinister way. Myobu was social, and her idea of being sinister was to simultaneously glare and pout at Kakashi with one hand on her hip and the other maintaining a water technique over her head to keep the rain off of her. "Weren't you the cute kid who always followed every rule to the letter?" Kakashi's eyes turned downcast. "Quit beating yourself up over it. Do you think Obito gave you that eye so that you could get caught moping about in the rain and catch pneumonia?" Kakashi raised his head and his visible eye widened before he shook his head. Myobu just gestured for him to come and so he did. When he was promoted to Junin right before the mission, he felt like he had finally achieved the level of his sensei. Even if he was not nearly as strong, he was of equal rank and therefore equal in the chain of command, right? Oh, how wrong he felt after he followed Myobu home. In Arashi's living room by the fireplace were all three Sannin. Arashi and Tsunade's still living at the time boyfriend Dan, who had not yet proposed. The five of them and the newcomer Myobu entered into a complicated technical discussion about seals that drove Kakashi's head through a loop. XXX and Flashback XXX. There were 4 things he learned that night. The first was that his sensei and Jiraiya were far more brilliant than he had ever given them credit for even if they acted so silly. The second was what it meant to feel mothered, something he never knew since his own mother died due to complications shortly after childbirth. The third was that Orochimaru had a bizarre sense of protectiveness for family that ran so deep he was openly discussing the possibility of raising the dead in front of people who could easel. Why get him in trouble for it just to entertain the possibility of seeing his mother and father again? The fourth and final thing he learned was that despite being a Junin, Kakashi himself was still just a brat. When Arashi's own brat was cut loose on the world, he wanted to be there to give the child everything Arashi and Myobu gave him and more. He and Rin planned to adopt the baby. But fate had other ideas. Even though the fault in the ceiling was only known amongst those considered to be the most trusted shinobi, the following night after the Kyuubi attack there was an attempt on Naruto's life, by an experienced Junin no less. It quickly became clear that precautions had to be put in place to guard Naruto. Rin had perhaps taken it even worse than Kakashi. Though they were both young teenagers. The moment she set eyes on the baby, Rin was eager for motherhood. However, neither Rin nor Kakashi had the battle experience needed to defend Naruto adequately. The thought was entertained, of letting Naruto stay in the Uchiha compound, but then an Uchiha had been impersonated and the perpetrator had attempted to steal Naruto and take him to a foreign country, no doubt hoping to sell Naruto for a profit. For one of the strongest among the Uchiha to be defeated and impersonated, it quickly became clear that only the very strongest of shinobi could defend Naruto. Orochimaru would have been the first choice since he was the baby's last living relative, but around the same time he had begun experimenting on humans hoping to understand the nature of dark chakra, the name used for the chakra of gods since it is so strong it sticks together retaining its energy, giving off no light of its own and so dense that it absorbs all light shown upon it. Needless to say, none of the village leaders felt comfortable putting Naruto in Orochimaru's hands when they weren't even sure that Orochimaru's sanity remained intact. The other two Sannin were also both elsewhere. Jiraiya was needed to maintain his spy network and would likely turn Naruto into a pervert anyway, and Tsunade's fiancé Dan had died shortly before the war with Iwa ended and Arashi took office, so Tsunade had left Konoha, unable to bear the conscious burden of war. Sandaime wasn't even sure he could find Tsunade if he wanted to. This meant that there was only one option, since there were no defenders strong enough to watch Naruto all the time. A rotation of shinobi would be needed to watch Naruto each for a part of the time. By rotating through them and keeping the schedules random, impersonation was much more difficult. Since the impersonator would have to prepare for days or even weeks in advance, making it more likely to be caught. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Rin set themselves deep into training to become strong enough to defend Naruto. However, soon it became clear that the entity inside Naruto was more developed than they at first imagined. Rin fled Konoha in search of knowledge, hoping to find a way to seal off the entity. She would later become known throughout the shinobi world for stealing important scrolls of seals. Occasionally she would mail in reports to the Hokage's office, always written in the same kind of code Myobu used to use for her notes, a code that only a handful of whom trying to help Naruto knew. Kakashi had wanted to chase after her. He almost felt empty with Naruto being his only day-to-day tie to the past. At the same time, it was exactly for that reason that he could not leave Naruto, and exactly for that reason that if he wasn't going to be Naruto's sensei, he would have left Konoha in search of Rin, a fact he said in no uncertain words to the Hokage. Promptly at 7 in the morning, Kakashi met up with his team. On one hand he was happy, the fact that EY were all here after hearing what the Hokage had to say yesterday was proof of their commitment. On the other hand, he was angry. Where was Naruto's Anbu guard? With Kakashi as Naruto's sensei, the would be no Anbu guard while Naruto was on duty. For that reason, Kakashi could not be late even by a minute to his designated appointments with his team. However, Kakashi was precisely on time, and the Anbu should have shadowed Naruto to the training ground and made his presence known to Kakashi the moment he arrived on the scene. He would have to bring this up with the Hokage later. Putting that aside, he smiled at the genin. Good, you're all here. Sasuke snorted and rebuked, why wouldn't we be? Both Naruto's and Sakura's eyes widened, but for different reasons. Naruto felt that for the first time he could say somebody was his friend, while Sakura, who had felt a distinct lack of confidence approaching the training grounds earlier, suddenly felt both a true unbiased wave of awe for her crush as well as an internal questioning of her prior lack of confidence. Both felt suddenly stronger. Kakashi retained a lazy image through all of this. Well, you know, a little bird tall. Me the Hokage told you guys some interesting things yesterday and not everybody has the confidence of the Uchiha. Sasuke smiled smugly. Now with that out of the way, you guys pass. Kakashi's eyes smiled anew. Sensei, I wasn't aware that we were being tested, Sakura said confusedly. Well, it's just that, Kakashi started, when I tell you this you guys are definitely going to flip. Of the 27 graduates, only 9 will be chosen as genin. The rest will be sent back to the academy. All 3 genin deadpanned. But sensei, Sakura said, didn't you just say we passed? Correct. What the hell? I don't get it, Naruto commented for the first time. We worked so hard. What was the point of graduating if only 9 of us become genin? Oh, that, Kakashi answered, that was just to see who has the skill to become a genin. It was Sasuke's turn to ask a question. And why do we pass when we haven't done anything? Oh, but you have done something. You're all here, aren't you? Kakashi's eyes smiled almost mockingly. The 3 genin clearly didn't get it. The answer to the test was teamwork, Kakashi elaborated. Still confused, Sakura asked, teamwork? Yes, teamwork. In the field, a rookie genin no matter how strong will always lose to higher level opponents. Sasuke scowled indignantly at Kakashi's remark, which Kakashi ignored. The answer is teamwork. If one genin takes on a Junin or even a Chunin, they have no hope of achieving victory, but in a team of 3, the genin have a chance to overcome even a high-ranking Junin. Kakashi started walking CK to where he originally was at the memorial, motioning for the 3 genin to follow. Normally I would test you by pitting you against each other and deciding to pass you or not based on your willingness to work together as a team. But yesterday the Hokage gave you information that would automatically set you against one member of the team. Your willingness to show up as a team is enough to shish out that you are willing to work as a team. If I gave you the test now, you would pass for sure. Kakashi stopped in front of the stone, the 3 genin stopping behind him. On this stone is carved the names of heroes that died in battle. My best friend's name is on this stone. He died because of a failure in teamwork. All was silent after that. When it came down to it, Kakashi was considered to be one of the lousiest Junin instructors available. He had never passed a team, and even if he had ever done so before, people would have thought his lazy habits would rub off on his genin. This was why some of the Junin questioned Sandame's sanity for making Kakashi the squad leader for both the last Uchiha, one of the most promising genin of the generation, and the vessel, who undoubtedly needed special care. They likely wouldn't pass, and if they did, they likely wouldn't receive the attention that was expected to be given to them. Kakashi himself had shot down all the arguments. He was the only person who could properly defend Naruto. Rin wouldn't hurt Kakashi, Orochimaru probably wouldn't, and even though Itachi would. Kakashi was the only person with a Sharingan developed out to have resistance against Itachi's eyes. But he was also the only person who could train Sasuke to use the eyes as well as he himself did. All remaining doubt was cast aside when Kakashi showed up on time for the Junin squad leader meeting to announce that he had passed his team. They were even further surprised to discover that he had already begun training them in chakra control, something which no doubt both boys needed. And further, chakra control exercises force the body to release chakra constantly and smoothly, which is an effective way to develop stamina that would aid the girl. Since Kakashi did not have a test planned for his genin, he started them with tree climbing, handless tree climbing. Naruto was the only one of the 3 who had seen the exercise before, but he was a long way away from mastering it. The reality of the situation was that Naruto had been working on his chakra control for years. It was difficult to control the Kyuubi's chakra and almost impossible to control the dark chakra, but if Naruto could manage, then he could guarantee victory over the 3rd being residing within him, the Dark God, as it was called. He worked them for 6 hours, until the start of his meeting. By that time, Sakura lay at the base of her tree too exhausted to continue. Sasuke had managed to make it halfway up a good-sized tree, and Naruto had several clones working simultaneously with him. Since clones split chakra evenly, they too received some of the Kyuubi's chakra and dark chakra, though only that amount which was actively flowing through Naruto's chakra coils when he generated the clones. The clones making it as far as a third of the way up decent-sized trees, while the original Naruto could make it no further than a few meters, impressive relative to the size of the tree, which was well over 20 meters being 66 feet. Damn it, Naruto cursed in his sleep, damn it, damn it, damn it. Was that all I can do? Within his mindscape, Kyuubi walked up next to him in her human form. A resounding smack echoed through the darkest parts of Naruto's mind as she slapped him upside the head, completely ignoring the pain that the seal reflected back onto her. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Ow, what was that for? Idiot, she said, if chakra control were that easy for you, then you would already have won. Once you learn how to control the dark chakra, you can strip him of his power. A figure appeared out of the darkness within Naruto's mind. But that's the thing, isn't it? You never will be able to control my chakra. I can even let you try and you will fail. After all, you're only human. He looked almost identical to Naruto except that he possessed eerie black eyes and bore no whisker marks on his cheeks. In truth, he had no gender. But since he would be taking Naruto's body in due time, he would always take Naruto's form within the mindscape. Kyuubi growled at the newcomer, but made no move. Naruto shouted, "Shut up." The god in the making merely laughed. You won't win, Uzumaki Naruto. You're running out of time, but even if you had an eternity you could not ever win. I am, after all, a god. Die. A sword swung down at Naruto. Whooshing through THRD hummed ominously as Naruto caught it between his left thumb and forefinger. The man's eyes widened in fear, as he suddenly realized that his assassination attempt was going to end in failure. He was foolish to accept a job inside a hidden village. He should have known better, but the price that he had been offered was too phenomenal to ignore. What could go wrong? The boy was only 6, right? He had laughed about that earlier. Now, he wasn't so sure. Black eyes opened, staring ominously at the would-be assassin. An insane grin marred Naruto's features. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue, or should I ask, God got your sword? An insane laugh filled the room. The assassin peed himself. This is not happening. This is not happening. Sadly, it was. And the internal chanting of that mantra would do nothing to change the situation. Naruto's grin widened. What are you? The man's knees started shaking, and if at all possible, Naruto's grin widened further still. Then the grin faded completely. A massive killer intent poured forth. A shuffling could be heard as Anbu and the Hokage worked to bust down the door the assassin had placed a powerful seal on. Little had he realized that rather than keeping Naruto in a cage, the sealed door kept him in a cage with a beast. Shouts resounded through the Hokage's tower, but the man could hear none of it now. Even as the door was blasted open, all the man could hear was the beating of his own heart and all that he could feel was the fist of a child crushing said organ. He watched as his own heart was pulled from his chest and then everything went black. Naruto shot up in bed. That dream again, that memory of the past. Shakily, Naruto rose his right hand, staring at it, curling his fingers just as they had been curled 6 years ago, moments before he crushed the man's heart. Even now he could see the blood on them, blood that was no longer there. Shish, a voice came from within him. It's all right, Naruto-kun. It was only a dream. I know, but, he thought back. You did nothing wrong, Kyuubi chided. It was him, she spat. I know, but, idiot, Naruto ended in his mindscape only to be smacked on the back of his head. Hey, what was that for? Kyuubi giggled at Naruto's sudden change in emotion. It's not funny, she pouted. He turned away and held his nose up. She started laughing openly at his antics. He joined her laughing. Suddenly she drew him into a hug. Naruto-kun, don't push yourself too hard. Naruto stiffened, and then melted into her arms. Once again at 7 in the morning, Kakashi met his 3 students, greeting them with a simple, yo, in his usual lazy tone. As if on cue, a bush rustled just off the edge of the training ground, signifying that the Anbu shadowing Naruto had left. Sensei, what kind of training are we having today? Sakura asked. Kakashi lazily scratched the side of his head with his right hand. I was thinking we'd go shopping. The three genin deadpanned. Shopping. What does that have to do with anything? Naruto demanded. Sasuke couldn't help but agree. Wouldn't we be better off working on our ninja skills? Sakura said nothing, caught up in an internal battle. Shopping. Woohoo, take that Ino pig. I get to go shopping with Sasuke-kun. He can help me pick out clothes but Naruto and Sasuke-kun are right. Shouldn't we be working on our ninja skills? Outwardly, Sakura asked, what kind of training is that? Kakashi smiled at the reactions of his students, drawing his visible eye shish out into the crinkled look known to many as the eye smile. If there was one thing Kakashi enjoyed more than Ika Paradise, it was stringing people along, a habit that many good ninjas possessed. Though none more than Sasuke's elder brother Itachi. Clothes shopping. It's important in the field that you wear the right kinds of clothing. All three of you are wearing outfits fine for training purposes, but in the field, all of you would get hurt. For instance, you Sakura are wearing bright colors that stand out when you hide, giving away your position. You also have your legs and arms uncovered, making them easy to damage. Even you, Sasuke, have a lot of your body uncovered, and your t-shirt is made of thin material for aeration, but that material is easy to shred with a kunai. Sakura blushed embarrassedly, but Sasuke took in the criticism of his outfit in stride. He already knew this and he had battle accessories that he could add to his outfit to provide additional protection, such as thick ninja bandages and forearm guards. Sasuke turned his attention to Naruto and grinned. Finally going to get rid of the orange jumpsuit. Sasuke was expecting to get rise out of Naruto, but was surprised instead to find a frown mar Naruto's face. Kakashi frowned as well and replied in Naruto's stead, there's a reason why Naruto always wears bright colors. Because of the possibility of people trying to kidnap Naruto. Hokage-sama made it a regulation for Naruto to wear bright colors whenever inside Konoha's walls. The Anbu guards all chipped in to have the orange jumpsuits custom made for Naruto on his 10th birthday. Quote, the group stood in silence for a moment, absorbing that information. Kakashi strolled somewhat briskly down the streets. Naruto practically jogged to keep next to the man, while Sasuke followed from behind, with Sakura hanging on to him. Even though the dynamic of the group had changed dramatically since the Hokage's little talk with Sasuke and Sakura, it was a somewhat relieving thing for Naruto that the dynamic was a bit closer now to how it had been while they were at the academy. It was not that Naruto minded getting the attention and recognition, but there was a certain hesitance in the air, not so much out of fear of Naruto but fear for him, that they might say or do the wrong thing, or that Naruto could get hurt, killed or captured, and a special wariness that someone like Itachi or Orochimaru might just appear seemingly out of the blue for whatever reasons they might have. To say the least, that thought was not comforting. Naruto was not at all a genius, but he was smarter than people generally took him to be. Yes, people would recognize that he could be introspective, but half the time Naruto was striving for attention, wanting to be viewed as just Naruto, rather than the Kyuubi vessel, or the boy whose body may be taken over by a god. Despite Naruto's feelings for Kyuubi, as a friend and possibly more, a clear majority of his heart wished that the Kyuubi attack never happened and that he could have his mother and his father alive. His uncle and Rin would never have run off, and perhaps Itachi would not have killed the Uchiha clan looking for a way to become a god himself. And most of all, though Naruto knew it was selfish thinking, he could have had a normal life where people looked at him as just a normal child and treated him like one. Instead, he was pitied, scorned, admired, hated and feared all at the same time. Naruto, more intelligent than most people believed, could easily recognize these different emotions even as people looked at him from behind his back. So for Naruto, it was a great wonder why his team was going shopping today, of all days. It was their second day together as a team and Kakashi had even said explicitly that they would not be doing missions until their training had come along further, and they certainly would not be leaving the village. Thus, Naruto would have to remain in his orange jumpsuits, which he both loved and loathed at the same time. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto spoke. Kakashi's eyes shifted, catching Naruto's expression in it more clearly. Why are we going shopping? I mean, why today? We're not going to be leaving the village for a while, are we? Kakashi smiled at the intelligence of his student's remark. That's correct, but it can't hurt to take care of this now. Naruto frowned a bit, displaying his dissatisfaction with the answer. Kakashi added, Sakura may seem alright, but her movements are a bit sluggish today, and based on those shadows under your eyes, I'd had dreams last night, yes. Quote, Naruto's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. Kakashi's answer caught him off guard. It was indeed true that Naruto had nightmares. More specifically memories, that he wished he could forget, over the course of the night, but Naruto had not realized that the shadows under his eyes were substantial enough for others to notice, nor could he figure out how Kakashi knew the particular reason for his current condition. Kakashi smiled. The Anbu on guard last night reported a startled gasp from your room last night and noticed you panting in bed when he investigated. Naruto blushed embarrassedly, but didn't get a chance to respond as Kakashi spoke again. Ah, we're here. The store in front of them had a sign that said, Sword, Scroll and Kunai. Naruto had been there once before. The Tusho family owned weapons shop. Sakura had never been there before as her father always brought home her ninja supplies and Sasuke of course had access to the Uchiha stores. Though most the ninja apparel there was for larger people, specifically, adults. The three students stood outside for a moment, eyeing the store while Kakashi idly walked in, causing a bell to jingle a few times. Sasuke made a sound that came out like, HN, before following Kakashi in. Sakura chased after him with a subdued squeal of, Sasuke-kun. Naruto chuckled and followed them in as well. Inside the store, they were greeted by a somewhat burly middle-aged man. Kakashi-san, what can I do for ya? Yo, Kakashi replied back in his usual manner, I'm here to get these three outfitted. Ah, the man said. Looking them over, Sasuke came into the man's view first. The elder Tusho gave Sasuke an appraising look, before nodding. Sasuke's outfit was fairly standard for an Uchiha. And only mild adjustments to his wardrobe would be necessary, starting with longer, shinobi-type pants, most likely a dark gray color, not much unlike the clothing made for Itachi when the elder Uchiha brother was only 7 years old and already taking missions where he would face enemy shinobi. Tusho turned his attention to Sakura and bit back on a grimace. The red dress would have to go. As fine for training since it did not hinder movements in any way, but in the field it would give away her hiding spot, screaming, kill me. However, changing her clothing was the least of his worries. Sakura's natural hair color was pink. And while the girl's hair was most certainly beautiful, it would hinder her stealth abilities. Few guys had problems covering their hair, but it was difficult to get a girl to wear a hat or even a bandana to cover their hair. Girls at that age are more often concerned with beauty than ninjutsu, and hat hair would be a big no, in the girl's eyes. Fina, Lly Tusho turned to the last genin and his eyes widened. It was through the Tushoi shop that Naruto's jumpsuits were ordered, so of course the man knew of the rules pertaining to Naruto's clothing. Tusho turned his attention back to Kakashi, you do realize the rules. Kakashi waved a hand dismissively. I just want them to be prepared for when we do take our first mission outside Konoha. Tusho nodded. Very well. Feel free to browse. Sasuke is it? Sasuke nodded in recognition of being called. I think I've got the right thing for you already. Then we'll work on your two friends there. Sakura went right over to the clothes racks and a horrified expression covered her face. Sensei, the colors are all so bland. Kakashi scratched his head confusedly. Sakura was most likely the smartest girl her age. Isn't that the point? Sakura shook her head. I mean, the only colors here are dark green, dark blue, gray and black. What about, like, dark red? Kakashi nodded thoughtfully. We can ask Tusho-san when he gets back. Right as Kakashi said that, an orange blur shot past both him and Sakura on the way to the changing room. Meanwhile, in the back of the store, Tusho fished through a rack of dark gray colored pants. Finally he grabbed out a pair that seemed to be the right size. Try this on, he said. Many Uchiha used to get pants like these back before. The man shook his head. Deciding it would be bad to press the point, well anyway, just try these on. Sasuke grabbed the pants and walked off to the changing room located in the back of the shop wordlessly. No, even a full minute later he reappeared, the pants in his hands. Tusho scratched his head nervously. Don't like 'em. Sasuke just said, "I'll take them," before walking back to the front of the store. Chusho looked bewildered for a second before shrugging and following Sasuke out to the front. "He's harder to understand than my daughter." Putting back on a friendly face, which for the ninja accessory salesman meant a face that wasn't creepy looking, asked out, "Who is next?" Right as those words were spoken, the changing room adjacent to the front of the shop burst open and Naruto announced his presence loudly. "Tada! Uzumaki Naruto has arrived." He was sporting dark blue shinobi pants identical to Kakashi's, only smaller, and similarly taped at the ankles. For a shirt, he was wearing a matching dark blue long-sleeve t-shirt with the sleeves pushed back to just below the elbow. On the shoulders of his shirt were red spiral insignias and on the front was a larger red spiral. He wore his forehead protector with the fabric pulled out into the shape of a bandana, obscuring most of his locks of bright blonde hair, though a few insisted on spiking out from underneath and from behind. Spikes of gold were still visible. Chusho chuckled at Naruto's antic, while Sakura whistled approvingly. Naruto actually did look pretty good, though she admitted to herself that he'd need a vest to complete the look. Something not given to genin. Kakashi simply smiled while Sasuke looked almost like his usual self, barring an almost imperceptible upward curl to his lips. "Well now," Chusho said, "I guess that just leaves the lady. What will you be having?" For the second time within the past 5 minutes, before anyone could answer, a new arrival caused a distraction. "Chu-san, I'm home." A girl's voice called out as the doorbell jingled. A girl with 2 hair buns on her head strode into view. "Hey darling, how was your day?" Stifling a yawn, the girl responded, "Tiring. I haven't seen these guys around before. Are they rookie genin?" "Yeah," Naruto loudly responded, "I'm Uzumaki Naruto." Tenten smiled at Naruto's boisterous display. "I'm Tenten." She held out a hand, which Naruto shook. For a second Naruto looked as if he were done speaking, but then his face lit up in realization. "Oh, this is Sakura-chan and Sasuke. They're my teammates." Sakura smiled sweetly, "Pleased to meet you Tenten-san." Sasuke added a "HN" in support. Tenten's smile faltered for a moment before she placed it back on. "He's as cold as Neji." "Right," Chusho spoke, clapping his hands together. "Well, let's get you suited up, little miss, shall we?" "I was wondering," Sakura asked, "do you have anything in dark red?" Chushu's hand rubbed the bottom of his jaw in thought. "You know, I think I've got just the thing." It had been a month since the formation of Team 7. During that time, Naruto finally progressed to the point where he could climb to the top of a tree using chakra. Sakura, after finishing the exercise, had been put to work to increase her physical ability by practicing taijutsu against a log. Sasuke finished the exercise after 3 additional days of training, and then began practicing his taijutsu as well, though he was already at a high level in that art. That left Naruto to continue training for an additional 2 weeks in chakra control. Ultimately, with a little help from Kyuubi, Naruto was able to discover that while his own chakra was too thin to balance out any instability in the dark entity's chakra, the Kyuubi's chakra was just barely thick enough to manage the task. Thus, while it was difficult to control Kyuubi's chakra in such a precise manner, Naruto was able to manage the task, though with some time before Naruto would be able to subconsciously perform that task. After Naruto finished the exercise, the team began work in basic D-rank missions, such as chasing the daimyo's cat Tora around the training grounds of Konoha. While the missions were hardly useful for learning, Kakashi had all 3 genin wearing their weights while participating, thus getting in a workout. Sakura was consistently the most exhausted from her work, but, with her very high-level chakra control, if she were able to build up sufficient stamina, then she could easily make herself a strong support-type kunoichi. Naruto had consistently the most energy, but his progress in chakra control, though tedious, would in the end make him potentially the most powerful shinobi in existence. With the chakra of the Dark God under his belt, Naruto's power levels would be far higher than the theoretical human limit. The dark chakra possessed by the entity did not affect the human body in the normal manner, and thus could run through a human body in theoretically infinite quantities. Though he was the strongest going into the development of the team, Sasuke was only continuing to grow stronger than the other 2. Naruto's slow progress in chakra control And that Sakura and Sasuke had a lot of free time to train in other areas, but Sakura had to dedicate that time to increasing her strength, speed and stamina, which often left Sasuke to spar with Kakashi. The battle experience gained was causing Sasuke to develop impressively, and the tingling sensation he was feeling in his eyes was an indication that his Sharingan was getting ready to activate. Three genins headed towards the Hokage's tower, hoping that they could weasel their way out of doing yet another pointless mission. Since he completed the chakra control exercise, Naruto would now also get a chance to spar with Sasuke. Or perhaps even learn a new technique. The three genins were side by side, Sasuke in the middle, with Naruto on his right and Sakura on his left. Kakashi was behind them, reading his perverted little book, but before the three could climb the steps leading up the tower, they were called out. "Oi, you guys, it's been a long time." Kiba hurried over in a half-joke, half-walk. Shino and Hinata trailed behind him. "What have you guys been doing? We've been getting pretty strong." "PFT, Sasuke replied, "you seem confident." Though on the inside Sasuke was curious to see how the other teams had progressed over the past month. He was quite confident that he was stronger, and displayed those feelings outwardly, dismissively looking away from Kiba as if he were unimportant. "We've worked hard," Kiba growled out. "We won't lose to you." "As that's so." Naruto stepped forward. "Kiba-kun didn't mean anything," Hinata barely whispered out. Kakashi had moments ago been ready to step in and intervene, but Naruto totally diffused the tension. Hinata, did you say something?" Hinata blushed and poked her fingers together, too embarrassed to reply. Kiba frowned, but then smiled viciously. "Well, we're about to go kill that cat, right, Akamaru?" The small dog growled and then barked in response. Hinata frowned, while the others, including Shino even, sported savage grins. "Kiba, Team 8's Junin Sensei Yuhi Kurenai chastised, we don't kill our client's cat." Kiba grumbled in response and walked away, trying to figure out a way to make the death of Tora appear accidental. Shino shrugged and then followed. Team 7 continued on and only Hinata was left, watching the backs of the two boys from Sakura's team, wishing she could be changed with the other girl. The aura of those two boys just standing side by side like that was almost staggering for shinobi of that level. It was clear to Hinata that they would go far, and she desperately wished she could say the same for herself. If nothing else, it would relieve the tension her father placed on her shoulders. She particularly liked Naruto. Sasuke and Naruto all carried an inner sadness. But while Sasuke hid his behind an arrogant smirk and she hid hers by making herself invisible, Naruto could brush it all off completely with nothing more than a goofy grin. She longed for that mysterious ability. "Oi, Hinata," Kiba shouted, "are you coming or not? Don't tell me you're turning into one of Sasuke's fangirls." Hinata blushed, embarrassed at being caught staring at the boys from Team 7. Though secretly thankful that Kiba was ignorant enough to believe that it was Sasuke she was looking at. Team 7 stood in front of a long desk, or rather, a series of desks connected to each other. In front of them was the Sandaime Hokage, and next to Sandaime was Iruka, who was helping to distribute missions. "Ah, Team 7, I have a special assignment picked out for you," the aged Hokage spoke. Even Sasuke's face betrayed him as he and the other two genin looked on with hope at what their mission would be. Kakashi raised an eyebrow, knowing that this would not be a simple D-rank mission. Sandaime pulled a scroll out of his robe. "Your mission, C rank," he said. Iruka's eyes widened. Hokage-sama, you can't possibly be thinking of giving them a C rank mission already. They aren't ready. The Hokage looked somewhat amused and held up a hand in a weak dismissive gesture. "It's quite all right. I picked this mission out especially for Team 7. It's a C rank mission in Training Area 44. Enko, you can come in now." A door behind the genin slid open and a lady with dark purple hair, almond brown eyes, a round face and curvy body, barely hid behind a mini skirt and a long tan trench coat, stepped out into the room. "Are these the brats that are going to help me?" Karen paced back and forth nervously in a grungy, barely lit room. Normally she enjoyed her time spent with Orochimaru greatly, and aside from Kabuto and Kimimaro she was perhaps the only who could say that. But enjoying Orochimaru's presence was difficult for the pre-teen girl to do while in the presence of Jugo. The older boy was an imposing enough figure on his own, but he held a naturally occurring version of the cursed seal. It was from Jugo that Orochimaru had developed the enzymes from which the cursed seal was formed. Few could hold the claim that they sought out Orochimaru willingly. Jugo was one of them. Besides other complications, the cursed seal seemed to take root in the mind of the individual. And when activated, it would cause the user to go into an uncontrollable bloodlust. Those who were physically weak would often die just from receiving an injection of the enzymes to make the seal. And only those who were truly strong could control the seal at all. However, even the strong have their limits, and the longer the seal was held active, the more the user would lose his or herself to it. In other words, it was a two-edged sword, a device that could give a massive infusion of power, but at great cost, not only the bloodlust, but a corruption of the very essence of the soul, through which the cursed seal would establish itself, almost like a second conscience. And if that conscience were to take over even for a fleeting instance, the user would be lost to it forever. As strong as Jugo was, he was pretty far lost to the effects of the seal, not because he abused its powers as others did, but because he was born with the seal and it would activate on its own whenever he was placed under great emotional duress. Nervous pacing was all Karen could do as she waited, patiently, for her master. The stress of merely being in the same room as Ugo was not at all relieved by his constant mumblings either. A mantra seemed to be playing in Jugo's mind. I don't want to kill anymore, I don't want to kill anymore, I don't want to. Finally the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway towards the meeting area. How it was that Orochimaru could stand to have meeting areas look more like catacombs than offices was beyond Karen's comprehension. But she never was one to complain about it. The door creaked open. Orochimaru entered followed by Kimimaro. The tension in Thrali's suppressed killer intent seemed to drop completely. It was well known that Kimimaro was capable of subduing Jugo, and the two older boys seemed to have both feelings of understanding and companionship between each other. Karen let out a breath she never even realized that she was holding. The words Orochimaru spoke bewildered the two who had originally presided over the room. I'm entering you three as a Genin team for the Chunin exams 5 months from now in my home village. Konoha. Karen felt the need to protest, but was cut off by Jugo. Orochimaru held up a hand. I'm sure you are already aware of why I have such great interest in the cursed seal. That is why I'm sending you three to the Chunin exams. Karen-chan, you are to compare the chakra of Jugo's original cursed seal with the chakra of a certain boy, and also you three have a mission to find possible lab rats for the future, individuals capable of surviving the cursed seal. Karen asked, who is this boy that interests you? Orochimaru held out a photograph. That's the boy and his team. Karen's jaw dropped in surprise as she studied the 4 faces on the photograph. Her lips then curled into a gentle smile. Cousin. Karen placed the photograph on a bench behind her and then hurried out of the room. On that bench was a photograph of Team 7. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.